to join. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and colleagues. It's our pleasure in the project support to the technical and financial sustainability of the renewable energy and energy efficiency sector to hold our third webinar on Egypt roadmap to reaching its sustainable energy goals 2035, energy transition and modernization of the Egyptian energy sector. My name is Hafiz Salmawi. I'm professor for energy engineering at the Gazig University, and I'm joining this project as a key expert too. This webinar is a part of our program of webinars which tackles the development of sustainable energy in Egypt from different aspects, including technical, planning, financial, investment needs and challenges, business models, sectors integration, regulations, public awareness, etc. As all of you currently know, that the project is EU-supported project in cooperation with both Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy and Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources. The project is executed by a consortium of consultants led by DAI Human Dynamics. The project consists of 5 components for reorganization of the core functions of NREA, New and Renewable Energy Authority, modernization of renewable energy framework, establishment of an energy modeling unit, establishment of a Cairo Sustainable Energy Information Center, and technical assistance to the Energy Efficiency and Climate Unit at the Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources. Our today's webinar is about transition of energy sector in Egypt. The concept of energy transition has emerged as a result of growing needs, environmental challenges, and opportunities enabled by the development in technology. The target is to achieve smarter, cleaner, renewable, efficient, resilient, distributed, affordable, highly interconnected, and interactive energy system. The Integrated and Sustainable Energy Strategy of Egypt 2035, which adopted by the Supreme Council in October 2016, has set a clear vision for achieving this target. The strategy document addresses challenges, goals, and rationale. It includes 4 main energy scenarios with variations where scenario 4B has been adopted. This scenario is the least cost scenario, which allows for different technologies to compete based on their economic viability. In addition to the main strategy document, it also includes a white book. This book comprises policy and action plan based on the main strategy. It set out the policy, goals, objectives, rationale, prerequisites, steps, implementation entities, beneficiary entities, deliverables, priorities, and time horizon for each action. In addition to this, a second volume is also included, which is collective sectors strategy, policy, action plans. This covers the sectors of oil and gas, conventional power generation, renewable energy, and energy efficiency. For each sector, it includes sector outlook, policy note, and sector action plan. One of the main advantages of this strategy is it has been built using dynamic model, which is called Times Egypt. This enables to update the strategy on regular basis on whenever there are conditions need to be examined to find their impact on the country energy strategy. In our webinar today, we will try to know more about the ongoing efforts to achieve the goals set in the strategy, the new developments since the issuance of the strategy, both locally and internationally, specifically the new strategies developed by the EU regarding the future of the energy sector and their possible impact on Egypt. Furthermore, we will try to know more about the ongoing efforts and scope, the update and extent of the energy strategy of Egypt up to 2040, in light of these new objectives and developments. In this respect, it's my pleasure to welcome our distinguished panelists whom kindly accepted our invitation to share their experience and visions regarding this important topic. First, I would like to introduce Dr. Beltagi, Ahmed Beltagi, from the European Commission in Cairo to talk to us about the new European documents recently released regarding energy and environment. Please, Dr. Beltagi.
Thank you, Dr. Hafiz. Do you hear me well? I mean, my voice is clear? Okay. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you today. Some months ago, this debate would have looked very different, actually, sitting around the room instead of around our screens. I have worked with a number of you already, and we have had opportunities to discuss the future priorities of energy policy. The scope of the challenges we are facing today, of course, may have changed, but our energy solutions, I would say, remain the same. Because our solution to leapfrog out of the current crisis, economic crisis, and avoid the impeding climate crisis is one and the same. As agreed with you, with the organizers, I will briefly shed light about development in Europe regarding the European Green Deal, while focusing on renewables, hydrogen, and Europe's energy system integration. First, about the Green Deal. Europe's goal is to be the first climate neutral continent by 2050, as you all know. It's understood that if Europe, I would say, wants to achieve this, it has to act immediately. Policies must be implemented immediately, because we know that this transition needs a generational change. The Green Deal in Europe is Europe's new growth strategy, a strategy where environmental, economic, and social sustainability go hand in hand. Because, I mean, to tell you the truth, for a very long time, it did not go hand in hand. For too long, different policies to boost sustainability had been uncoordinated, or worse, at odds with each other. After a large number of debates in Europe on this for quite some time, now the main conclusion is that the Green Deal has to be social, otherwise it will never materialize. So let me share with you some thoughts about this Green Deal. The first thought, the European Green Deal will cut emissions, of course, while also creating jobs and improving quality of life. For that, we need investment in research, innovation, green technologies. To pull this off, the Sustainable Europe Investment Plan supports €1 trillion of investment over the next decades. Second thought, only what gets measured gets done. Therefore, let me say that a first ever European climate law was put in place and aims to make the transition to climate neutrality irreversible. This includes extending emission trading to all relevant sectors, clean, affordable, and secure energy, the boosting of the circular economy, a farm to fork strategy, as well as a biodiversity strategy. The European Green Deal is expected actually to open new opportunities in all sectors, from transport to taxation, from food to farming, from industry to infrastructure. Third thought, this transition must work for all, or it will not work at all. And with just the transition fund, Europe will make sure that it helps those who will have to take, I would say, a bigger step and leave no one behind. The fund will leverage public and private money, including with the help of the European Investment Bank that has committed itself to become Europe's climate bank. The question now is, how do we forge ahead? What are we going to do exactly? A work plan is in place and encompasses three main areas: energy efficiency, renewable energy, and the sector integration. Energy efficiency first. Let me speak about energy efficiency. I mean, there is a clear route of boosting the economy while greening the energy system. It's a plan in the framework of a plan called the renovation wave. It can enhance building, or the renovation wave aims to enhance building renovation rates across the EU. We get healthier and more energy efficient homes, lower energy bills for the citizens, and better energy security. Now, there is a need to deploy work even faster for both the consumers and producers of buildings. Europe is aiming for hospitals, schools, and SMEs as the first target areas for investment, because these sectors are particularly affected by the crisis. Renovation work is labor intensive, as you all know, and would engage local companies across all member states, mostly SMEs. Like most policy area, there are two potential roadblocks for this. Money and regulation. For the first, it's essential to find new ways of funding it. For the second, the renovation wave, the plan, aims to minimize potential regulatory barriers and stimulate a faster pace of building renovation across the EU. So this is about the immediate action regarding energy efficiency. I would like also to speak very briefly about renewable energy and what's going on. Renewable energy, of course, offers us a major opportunity for growth in recovery plans. Projects are cost competitive and provide at least twice as many jobs as fossil fuel alternatives. That said, the market forecasts we are seeing in Europe predict a decline in new renewable projects by up to 33% this year. The market for rooftop solar photovoltaic technology has significantly declined. Although attractive to investors, in the long term, there is a need to further improve investor confidence to stimulate a pipeline of projects. We know that the wind industry has a key role to play here. It is an industrial and technological success story for Europe in the past, but if Europe wants to reach the 2050 goal, there is a need to increase the contribution of wind energy by 20-fold. So as part of the Green Deal, a proposed strategy on offshore renewable energy is a priority. And just a few months after the Green Deal announcement, Europe is convinced that there is a need to do everything it takes to avoid COVID dealing a death blow to this industry. So we're trying to help. Right now, it is struggling. The industry is struggling with orders falling and broken supply chains. That way, Europe's vision for how to massively, I would say, upscale this sector until 2050 will be actionable. Also, this is how the EU sends strong signals to the industry that renewables are not only part of the future energy mix, but are indispensable to a clean transition towards climate neutrality. Renewable sector are at the center of the recovery plan that the Commission presented earlier. Of course, major offshore renewable projects, smaller scale labor-intensive activities will be also encouraged. Solar energy brings solutions not only serving the consumer, but also ensuring that the building becomes the producer of the energy for tomorrow, the charging station. The central role of smart technologies will be pursued, of course, in Europe, and will unlock the renewable potential of the households. This is the route to putting the consumer at the center of the clean energy transition, to have the consumer producing their own energy. So now I detailed greater energy efficiency and renewable energy as the first two areas of work, but the third area amplifies the impact of both, bringing them together into one connected system. This is energy system integration. So energy system integration is how we connect the missing links in the energy system. It will guide us on how to increase the use of renewables via electrification, and how to use renewable and low carbon gases for hard to decarbonize sectors while shaping a cleaner, I would say, more efficient system overall. In other words, we are joining the dots. Turning this vision into a reality requires action, including decarbonizing the remaining sector of the economy, in particular those sectors so far dominated by fossil fuels, creating a more flexible power system by storing and transporting low carbon electricity and making gains on storage and digitalization. Central to energy system integration, of course, is the deployment of fuel sources, such as hydrogen, into the system. This has the potential to be a game changer. Hydrogen has a potential to be a game changer. Today, its share is less than 1% in the EU system, and it's mainly used as feedstock in the chemical sector, petrochemicals. It could act as an enabler, especially for the hard to decarbonize sectors like heavy industry and transport. So hydrogen is a central element in the European strategy for energy system integration. Let me say that never before in Europe have we seen such a level of interest about hydrogen as we have today. The reason is twofold. We need hydrogen to achieve climate neutrality, and we should use this opportunity to invest in the clean energy technologies to restart the economy and promote innovation. Still, Europe is turning adversity into opportunity. Europe's power sector is decarbonizing rapidly, and by 2030, almost 76% will come from low carbon sources, renewables, 54.8, and nuclear 21.1 almost. By 2050, Europe electricity supply is expected to be fully decarbonized, with over 80% coming from renewables. But electricity alone cannot get the EU there. We know that we will also need other carriers. We also know that to keep energy costs in check, controlled, we must harness all the synergies and exploit the complementarities between electricity sector, EU vast gas infrastructure, EU industry, and the transport sector. So hydrogen is a vital missing piece of the puzzle to help Europe reach this deeper decarbonization and to reach it at a lower cost for people. So together with a strategy for energy system integration, a dedicated strategy on hydrogen is in place. They set out how Europe intends to accelerate the transition to the energy system of the future. To make this happen, Europe focuses on 4 areas. First, to activate a virtuous circle of increased supply and demand for hydrogen, boosting demand in end uses like industrial applications and transport, and investing in developing electrolyzers with greater capacity. Part of this bringing down the cost of clean hydrogen to make it competitive. For this, we need, of course, more cheaper renewable energy and an efficient electricity market. There is also a need to create an ecosystem approach to hydrogen production. To do this, a Clean Hydrogen Alliance is being created to bring the full value chain of hydrogen together: investors, governmental, institutions, and industrial partners. Also, we need a regulatory framework to shape an open and competitive market, of course, with unhindered cross-border trade and infrastructure transport hydrogen where it is needed. This could mean a need to repurpose or use some of Europe's existing natural gas infrastructure, which will help avoiding stranded assets. Third, there is a need, of course, to continue research and innovation because developing a clean hydrogen economy poses a technological challenge. We need to vastly scale up electrolyzer technologies to support the ambition, but at this point, Europe does not have the production capacity it needs. Demonstration projects are starting at 20 megawatts in Europe, but we need gigawatt scale electrolyzers. We also need research in fuel cells and storage. So in September this year, the Green Deal call of 950 million euro under Horizon 2020 was launched, which will also cover hydrogen. Of that, more than 1/3 will be dedicated to energy topics, including a call for a large-scale electrolyzer. The Commission hopes that this will help to gather the right minds and unleash the research and innovation in all the relevant areas across the hydrogen value chain. Finally, comes the importance of international cooperation. Of course, as you know, the EU imports today just over 58% of the energy it needs. Tomorrow, Europe is determined to transform these imports of fossil fuels into clean energy partnerships. The EU is also determined to work with its neighbors in the first place, but also with global partners. There is a need for a common understanding and possibly even the harmonization of codes and standards for trading hydrogen internationally. We have seen EU focus on hydrogen mirrored across the globe, really everywhere. The number of countries joining the International Hydrogen Council has more than quadrupled in the past 3 years. We have seen that Japan has announced the next Olympic Games to be Hydrogen Olympics, which is excellent. MOU started to be signed in the region between member states and neighboring countries, such as Morocco, about green hydrogen development plans. Finally, I would say one important piece of the puzzle is the carbon border adjustment mechanism. It would address carbon leakage and make sure that EU ambition don't work in isolation, but it should be WTO compliant and compatible with the Paris Agreement. Right now, the Commission is working on the impact assessment and exploring pilot sectors where a mechanism could be useful. So, dear colleagues, to conclude, I have laid out our bigger picture for the energy system for the future and how Europe intends on getting there. I would say that most generations are forced to deal with how they create a better world for their own generation. We have the unusual task, but also the opportunity to tackle at once the biggest challenge of our own generation while preventing the biggest challenge for the generations of tomorrow. If I could convey anything to you today, it's that this is not the moment to pull back from investments in clean energy, it's the moment to double down. Europe has clear plans, significant ambition, and one piece of the equation is the determined action to push forward onto the road of recovery towards a climate neutral continent at Horizon 2050. Once again, green and digital investments will be a major pillar for Europe's recovery plan. The European Green Deal has an important dimension, of course, with respect to international cooperation. Europe is putting all its accumulated knowledge and it's willing to share its experience with the neighboring countries, including with Egypt. We have done it in the past, we are doing it right now, and will continue in the future. I don't need to say that we are already working with Egypt on issues very similar to what is being done in Europe, such as hydrogen scenarios, integration of renewables into the grid, energy efficiency programs such as the green energy financing facilities that was launched like 2 weeks ago, and a lot of other topics. So thank you very much for your attention, for your kind attention, and I wish you a very fruitful webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed, for this enlightening speech. Actually, I think same lessons maybe learned in Egypt regarding importance of wind energy. Actually, through the work of this project, it has been realized that wind energy should play a very vital role in the future of energy, renewable energy in Egypt, not just solar energy. Actually, this is why we extended more the combined renewable energy master plan to search for more additional wind resources, which shows that at least we might double 4 times the potential of winds we already think before that we might need it, which give much very enlightening scope for share of renewable in our energy mix. Also regarding hydrogen, because we received the question about if there is a document in Egypt regarding hydrogen policy. I think there is a document under preparation for the policy for hydrogen, and it's very much in focus in Egypt. As you mentioned, that Europe already has put on hydrogen in focus. Recently also, in addition to the European energy hydrogen strategy, Germany had already issued a strategy for 2050, which is 50% electrification, which means that 50% of the share of end consumer energy will come from electricity, and the rest 50% will be from hydrogen. So it shows how the trends of the system. Also regarding electrolyzers, and I think, as you mentioned, maybe it's one of very good cooperation area between Egypt and Europe regarding having a pilot project for establishment of electrolyzers in the system, just to have some pilot project to test the concept and go forward in hand with our European partners. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed. If there will be a questions for Dr. Ahmed or a need, we got a question here about yes, we are a group. Yes, I tackle it with there is a group of experts who are talking about having need to understand from the Commission about possible to apply for a grant and what's the hydrogen policy of Egypt. Actually, as I mentioned, that the hydrogen policy of Egypt is still under development, and I think we will put them in contact later with Dr. Ahmed Beltagi regarding procedures for communicating the Commission for to participate in activities. Good morning. Upcoming strategy or policy for decarbonization by using hydrogen. Most of the question is about hydrogen. I think Dr. Ahmed has mentioned that how is the European strategy, and I may refer you, you can download the European hydrogen strategy, Dr. Ahmed. It's available, yeah, I believe.
It's available, yes. Yeah.
Yes, so you can download it, the hydrogen strategy of Europe, which is already issued back in June 2020. Okay, now I will switch to, we will keep by the end 10 minutes for any participant who might remind the question, because this is a very valuable opportunity to have this kind of very highly caliber panelists to ask questions. So I will keep by the end 10 minutes for any question to any of the participants, in addition to the Q&A session, which is followed each presentation. Our next presenter is Dr. Ahmed Mehena. Dr. Ahmed Mehena is has over 30 years of experience in the Egyptian electricity and renewable energy sector. He is currently first Undersecretary for Research, Planning and Authorities Follow-up. He has held senior positions such as Undersecretaries for Authorities Follow-up, General Manager for Technical Follow-up, and General Manager of Ministers' Technical Office. In addition to his member of the Board of Directors, he is a member of the Board of Directors of New and Renewable Energy Authority. He's a member of the Energy Committee in ESCWA. Also, he was Secretary of IEC, National Committee of Egypt. He participated in several national committees for the preparation of strategies, policies, and legislations, such as Egypt Strategy for Sustainable Development 2030, the Egyptian Integrated Sustainable Energy Strategy 2035, and preparation of the Egyptian electricity law and incentives for renewable energy investment law. He has wide responsibilities, including overview the whole sector requirements and performance, power system expansion plans, and required adjustment investments for projects implementation, coordination with international financial institutions, and cooperation with other countries. He represented Egypt in many international and regional conferences, as well as he was head of some energy meetings. Dr. Ahmed Mehena holds a PhD degree in electrical energy economics, a master's degree in public administration, and a bachelor degree in electrical engineering. It's a pleasure to have you on board, Dr. Ahmed Mehena. The floor is to talk to us about scope of Minister of Electricity regarding implementation of the energy strategy and energy transition in Egypt. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Hafiz. Let me 1 minute to prepare the screen for my presentation, please.
We haven't received it. Not yet. That's too heavy.
Is that the presentation shown? You see my my screen, please. Do you hear me, Dr. Hafiz? I couldn't hear you.
Yes, Dr. Ahmed, we hear you and we see the screen.
Yes, it's now on the screen. We can see it on our screen. Please make it full screen.
Yes.
Can I put it on full screen mode?
Yes.
Okay, yes, that's very good.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Hafiz, and good morning, everybody. And thank you very much for inviting me to attend this very important meeting with you. And I hope that I can, in very short time, give you a very quick information about the energy transition and energy transformation in Egypt. My presentation today, I will talk about the challenges to Egypt energy and the Egypt strategy to tackle these challenges, and then the current status of electricity demand and supply resource in Egypt, and then electricity sector ongoing and development plans, and then the future intentions for the electricity sector, and then the cooperation with regional and international parties to achieve the international strategies, strategic development goals. At the first, let me remind of the a very big problem faced Egypt before 2014, which was, there was a big problem. There was a fuel shortage. There was a massive electrical power outage. There was low availability of power plants. There was some constraints due to transmission grids and huge losses. And let me also remind what His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said at that time, that the electricity, that the electricity is considered the matter of national security. He gave us a very direct instructions to solve this problem. So a huge work is being done to cover electricity, to cover or to overcome the deficit in electricity supply. We're starting with many battles. One of them, the fast track plan to add around 3,636 megawatt with investment $2.7 billion. This plan was implemented in 8.5 months, which is considered a global record for this kind of project. Also, we moved in the parallel path of completing the projects under construction to add around 4,250 megawatt with investment around $4 billion. Then we added around 6,886 megawatt in 1 year. This capacity is enough to cover the gap between demand and the production. Also, we implement the mega projects in cooperation with Siemens. We succeeded with Siemens to implement 3 mega projects power plants with the total capacity of 14,400 megawatt was installed in 2.5 years, which is considered also a global record in this issue. Also, we convert the simple cycle power plant to be combined cycle. We succeeded to add 1,850. After that, we succeeded to reduce the fuel consumption from 210 gram per kilowatt hour in 2016 to be now 182 gram per kilowatt hour, and we expect to reach 172 gram per kilowatt hour. You can see what are the amount of fuel saving in this issue. This slide shows that what is the capacity we succeeded to add, around 28 gigawatt already added in the period of from 2014 to 2020. This graph shows that starting from June 2015, there is no load shedding in Egypt. Yes, of course, we have some shortcuts, some power cuts, but there is no load shedding since June 2015. In the parallel path of the securing electricity and securing energy for the future, we transform our strategy for the sustainable phase. We already have a national strategy 2030 for Egypt, which include a strategic vision for energy, states that maximizing the efficient use of various energy resources in a competitive environment manner, focusing on renewable energy. Our strategy for Egypt is coherent with the national SDGs and United Nations Strategic Development Goals. The Supreme Energy Council approved the Integrated and Sustainable Energy Strategy till 2035, targeting 42% from renewable energy as a share of generated electricity by year 2035. And now we are studying to raise the share of renewable energy mix based on the reduction of technology, cost, and development of storage. I think the private sector investment will play a critical role in achieving the target through a framework mechanism. This slide shows the energy mix by 2035. We will have around 42% from renewable energy.
I think we need to move the slides. We are still on the slides of the deficit and surplus.
Deficit?
This is slide which called generation performance during period from 2014 deficit and September 2020 surplus. We need to move forward the slides.
Yes, I will check. Is it clear?
We're still on the same slide.
I think we have a problem. I couldn't hear you, Dr. Hafiz.
Yes, now it has been shared again.
Yes.
We are on a potential, a slide for potential from
yes.
wind and solar, based on wind and solar atlases.
Yes. Yes. Is that clear? The energy mix by 2035? Yes.
Yes. Yes, it's clear.
Yes. The energy mix by 2035, we will have 42% from PV, wind, and PV, CSV, and hydro. And the conventional and nuclear will present around 57%. Egypt have a very big potential from renewable energy, around 90 gigawatts from renewable energy, include wind, solar, PV, and solar CSP. We have a revolution on the legislative infrastructure, such as amendment of the name of electricity and renewable energy to be Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy. Also in July 2014, the tariff reform program was adopted and announced for 5 years. In September 2014, a cabinet approved the issuance of feed-in tariff program. In October 2014, NEREA, New and Renewable Energy Authority, establishing law has been amended to allow the NEREA to establish in partnership with private sector to implement operation and maintenance project. In December 2014, renewable energy law was issued to encourage generating the electricity from renewable energy. In July 2015, new and electricity law was issued. In April 2016, electricity by law has been issued. In October 2016, second phase of feed-in tariff already issued. We implement our projects under many schemes, such as EPC plus finance, feed-in tariff, PEO. Feed-in tariff already closed after finishing our target to encourage and support private sector to implement the I need to check with you, Dr. Hafiz, if the slide already cleared the renewable energy projects till 2022.
Yes. Schemes, different schemes, yes, already on.
If there is any problem, you can help me. Thank you. The electricity sector set some incentives for private sector, such as land allocation, availability of information concerning Atlas and wind, solar Atlas and wind Atlas, environmental impact assessment studies, custom duties for all imported material and equipment don't exceed 2%, sovereign guarantees, codes for interconnection with network, interconnection between neighbors, a bankable power purchase agreement, and network codes, contract, as well as a willing charge tariff to facilitate process for private investors. For the wind energy, we have now 1,375 megawatt implemented by NEREA and the private sector. And we have in pipeline some projects in cooperation with private sector with total capacity 750 megawatt. For solar energy, we have a very famous project in Bimban with capacity of 1,465 megawatt with investment around $2 billion. And this project won the best project prize worldwide by the World Bank. This photo shows the panels and the solar farms and the substation. And let me here say that the substation already finished before the starting of operation of the solar panels, which is a very successful achievement for the electricity sector. For the hydropower, we already utilize all potential on the river Nile. The total hydropower installed capacity up to now 2,832 megawatt. The last or the latest power plant in hydro is Asyut Hydro Power Plant with 32 megawatt in Asyut Barrage. But we now try to implement another scheme of hydropower such as pump. We implement now, and we see now to implement the megawatt with investment $2.6 billion. This slide shows what is the capacity now. Hello?
Dr. Ahmed, go ahead.
Do you hear me, Dr. Hafiz?
Yes, it's clear. Yes, it's on the screen. Yes.
Yes.
Renewable energy current. Yes.
This slide shows that the total renewable energy installed up to now 5,872 megawatt, which is acts as around 20 or 19% of the peak load of Egypt. It gave us information about we already achieved our targets 2 years before our targets. يعني show the energy mix in the future, but it is under studying now, not approved. We will reach 33% by 25 and 55 by 35. Also, we will reach around 61% by 2040. But as I mentioned, this is under studying now, not approved. For the upgrading transmission grid, if you can see the comparison between the grid in 2014 and 2020, we added around 3,640 kilometers for the transmission grid and the tension of 500 kV. I focus here on the 500 kV because it is very important for us. You can see we succeeded to add around 1.5 times of the existing length in 2014. For the control centers in the transmission networks and the level of 500 kV, the existing control centers, around 7 control centers, but now we implement 3 control centers, and there are 3 control centers under bidding now. This shows the capacities of control centers. We not only this is expected substations. Yes, this is for substations, and the 500 kV. We added around 30 substations with total capacity 44,000 megavolt ampere. More than 4 times the existing in 2014. This is the crossing towers of Nile and Suez Canal, and also we worked on the distribution, upgrading the distribution grid. We have a plan to enhance and support the distribution grid by adding around 47 distribution control centers, divided in 4 phases. Also, we plan to convert the traditional grid in the distribution to be smart grid. We already started the first phase by control centers. Also, in the smart meters, we already added and implement around 10 million smart meters in the grid, and we have a pilot project for 1 million smart meters. Already up to now, we implement 196,000 smart meter in the grid. For the international interconnection, we have ambitious target to be an energy hub in the region, because Egypt has the following potential: excellent location, existing interconnection with neighboring countries such as Libya, Jordan, Sudan, huge renewable energy potential from wind and solar, electrical energy surplus. Currently, transmission and distribution network are strengthening and upgrading to be a smart grid. Strong local manufactured electrical system. This graph shows that the interconnection projects already under operation, such as interconnection between Egypt and Jordan, between Egypt and Libya, Egypt, Sudan. We have many projects under study, under construction now between Egypt and Saudi Arabia. After finishing this project, Egypt will be connected with Arab Gulf countries. Also, we have a studying to interconnect with Europe grid. through Cyprus and Greece. If we can implement this project, Egypt will be a hub for electrical interconnection in the region. We have some future intentions in the field of waste to energy. We cooperate with the Ministry of Environment to implement some projects in the field of municipal solid waste. We already the compensation tariff for purchasing electricity produced from solid waste to be 1.4 Egypt pound per kilowatt hour. The expected electricity that could be generated from waste around 300 megawatt for the coming 5 years. For electric vehicles, Egypt have ambitious program in this issue in cooperation with many ministries in Egypt. The role of the Ministry of Electricity to provide the electricity for charging stations. Egyptera has set the tariff for electric vehicles charging and submitted it for the cabinet for approval. The selling price from distribution company is very competitive. It will be around 1.2 Egyptian pound per kilowatt hour. But let me say, frankly speaking, under studying and under approval now, not yet, not approved yet. Power to energy, I mean here the hydrogen, definitely. Because hydrogen now is a very important issue globally. As Dr. Hafiz mentioned in the beginning of the meeting, still studying now to implement strategy for Egypt. We targeted to use hydrogen as a energy storage for energy produced from renewable energy. We plan to implement a pilot project in cooperation with EU, in cooperation with any international partners such as EU countries, Japan, any country can share with us the cooperation to implement the pilot project in this issue. For water desalination projects, the Egypt also, there is a strategic plan for water desalination for renewable energy in cooperation with the Ministry of Housing and the Ministry of Resource and Irrigation. The land required to be approved for allocation already identified. 5 years plan starting from year 20 to 50, aiming to produce approximate 2.9 million cubic meter per day. We targeted to utilize renewable energy to provide the desalination projects with electricity. We have a good cooperation with regional and international parties, with JEDCO, which is an international organization which encourage the global interconnection by using renewable energy and clean energy. Egypt will be a part of this interconnection. We already signed an MOU with JEDCO. Also, we have a good cooperation with International Solar Alliance, ISA. The International Solar Alliance aims to provide a dedicated platform for cooperation among solar resources rich countries through achieving the common goals of increasing the use of member countries in a safe, convenient, affordable, equitable, and sustainable manner. Egypt has already signed the framework agreement on the establishment of the International Solar Alliance, ISA, on March 2018. For the Africa Renewable Energy Initiative, ARI, which is launched in Paris in 2015, by His Excellency the President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, targeting 10 gigawatt by 2020 and 300 gigawatt by 2030. Yani, ARI achieved its target for the first phase, and now we're preparing to second phase. For the African-European Energy Partnership, EYAP, EYAP was established in Lisbon in 2007, and since that date, joint group of expert and implementation teams have been established to lead the partnership. The strategic group will be the supreme entity in the partnership, whose parties have been identified in Egypt, COMESA, the African Union Commission, and the African side. Germany, Italy, and the European Union Commission of the European side. The EYAP proposed our targets many of areas such as accessing to electricity, maximizing the share of renewable energy, and energy efficiency. EU Egypt Action Plan endorsed on 6 of March 2007 by the EU-Egypt Association Council in the context of the European Neighborhood Policy. The conclusion of 8 to 9 March 2007 European Council and the Energy Policy Action Plan 2007-2008, which emphasizes enhancing the energy relationship with Egypt as an essential element of developing the EU's external energy policy and security of energy supply. Excuse me.
Dr. Mehena, could we conclude?
Yes, we have 2 minutes. Yes, 2 minutes.
Yes, please.
Yes. I think I have a problem to.
It's already appear the cooperation with European Union.
Yes, but the next slide, please.
You couldn't advance.
Yes.
Please,
yes,
tell us about the final conclusion. Yes.
Yes, we have some proposal.
Already it has advanced. Now we're on the second.
Such as to the oil and the gas sector, support the electricity sector reform, support the development of Egypt and the regional energy hub, measures and projects in the field of renewable energy, support energy efficiency strategies, policies and measures across various sectors, enhancement cooperation between Egypt and EU in the technologies, scientific and industrial areas across the energy fields, prepares Atlas the geothermal energy, development of central key information, key performance indicators for generation and distribution companies, awareness, customer protection and communication, develop of an electricity competition market, and finally, this is a new areas for cooperation, technology, electric vehicles, and energy storage. I apologize for exceeding my time, but I am open to receive any question or
thank you. It was quite informative, and we have scoop regarding the tariff for electric vehicles. Although I might have a question later, but I think because the commitment of Mr. Osama Mubarak, I will move to his presentation. Then we have a combined question and answer session after his presentation.
Let me, Dr. Hafiz, say that, please let me that for the electric vehicles tariff is under studying now. For
yes, understood. Yes, sure. But we are quite happy that you told us, Yani, this news and something from the control, as we said usually in university. معلومات من الكنترول. Thank you very much, Dr. Mahina. Yani, we have a lot of questions came on, and I will forward after the presentation of Mr. Osama Mubarak, because he has a meeting commitment. So we will proceed to Mr. Osama Mubarak. Mr. Osama Mubarak has over 28 years of experience in the oil and gas industry. In his current role, he is responsible for the realization office to drive Egypt modernization program across the oil and gas sector. Over his career, he supported the development of policies and reforms within the petroleum sector in Egypt, including comprehensive energy subsidy reform strategy, initiation of gas market reform, modification and updating of upstream agreements, and feasibility studies of infrastructure development projects. Mr. Osama led bilateral cooperation with other countries on petroleum topics, as well as communication with the financial institution and oil and gas organizations. He is Egypt representative in the executive board of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, GECF, and the International Energy Forum, IEF. He has a key role in the establishment and activities of the East Mediterranean Gas Forum, EMGF. And he is the current chairman of the high-level working group and gas industry advisory committee of the forum. Mr. Osama is also chairman of the organizing committee of Egypt Petroleum Show, EG 2020, the biggest oil and gas show in Africa and Southern Mediterranean. Mr. Osama holds an MBA with distinction from Edinburgh Business School, Heriot-Watt University in UK, and completed postgraduate studies in economics of energy at Reading University in UK. Mr. Osama, it's a very honor to have you on board. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hafiz. It is really a pleasure to be among you and among this distinguished panel. And I would like to thank the EU for organizing this very informative and interesting webinar. Egypt and the EU has enjoyed a long-standing partnership and cooperation. Egypt sees the EU as a strategic partner, and especially in energy, we have done a lot together. We have a lot of activities that are quite interesting. Dr. Mohena shared some of these. I'm not going to get into the details on that. I will try to be brief in my presentation and maybe give time for some questions. And even if the audience have some other questions, definitely we can arrange other engagements or even other meetings to tackle them. My presentation today is going to talk about four main topics, mainly Egypt Vision 2030, focusing on the energy pillar. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Egypt's modernization project, the oil and gas modernization project, with some highlights on some of the key success stories, highlight about our role, Egypt as a regional oil and gas hub, with some concluding remarks at the end. So first, and to link what I'm trying to say with the topic of today's webinar about sustainable development, as Dr. Mahena was explaining, Egypt witnessed a lot of challenges during the past decade, with two major revolutions in 2011 and 2013. This resulted in a lot of challenges economically, socially, And definitely this shed light on the energy sector. That's why after two revolutions, the Egyptian people were looking forward for better life standards. And that's why the government in early 2016 adopted Egypt's vision for 2030. And one of the main pillars of the vision was talking about energy, with specific objectives that are ensuring energy security, increasing the contribution of energy to the GDP, maximizing utilization of natural resources, promoting sector rational and sustainable management, reducing energy intensity, and reducing emissions coming out from energy. In line with this, both the Ministry of Petroleum and Ministry of Electricity, with the support of the EU, through a technical assistance, we developed an integrated sustainable energy strategy to 2035. Dr. Mahena talked in detail about this, but what I would like to say is that now we are currently, as Dr. Hafiz also referred to, we're trying to update the strategy with two main objectives: to increasing the share of renewable energy with the current updates and developments, and also trying to address the transition to green economy with specific highlight on hydrogen. And as I see here, a lot of the questions, or most of the questions, are addressing hydrogen. And maybe we can, after the presentation, we can talk a little bit about this. Also, in line with this, the Egyptian Ministry of Petroleum developed sector-specific strategic pillars to be in line with the Egypt Vision 2030, and also with the Integrated Energy Strategy 2035. And we have three main pillars, which are energy security, to boost energy supply, diversify energy supply, and manage energy demand. And the second pillar is financial sustainability. And the third pillar is sector governance. Along with this, in 2016, we launched what we call the Egypt's Oil and Gas Modernization, where we reached a shared vision within the sector in partnership with an international consultant. And the vision is to continuously unlock the sector's full value chain potential as a growth and sustainable development engine for Egypt, to achieve financial sustainability and become a leading regional oil and gas hub, and that the sector would be a role model for the future of modernized Egypt. We have developed this vision taking into consideration four main core values, which are safety, innovation, ethics, sustainability, and efficiency. And to achieve our vision, we have come up with 7 main programs that are covering the whole value chain, upstream, downstream, and the hub strategy, and at the same time covering also some of the most important health elements, like the investment attraction, the sector structure reform and organization. And one of the main pillars or programs is the human resources management. And at the same time, one of the main pillars was the digital transformation of the sector. How this modernization program contribute to the achievement of Egypt's vision 2030 and also to the integrated energy strategy? This is going to improve institutional and corporate governance. This is highlighting heavily on the investment on the human capital with capacity building and technical management and creative skills, increasing economy resilience and competitiveness, boosting economy's inclusive growth, enhancing macroeconomic indicators, including fiscal deficit, reducing fiscal and increasing foreign currency inflow, and ensuring energy sources sustainability to fulfill local demand and improve quality of services. We are proud that with these reforms, whether within the government or specifically within the petroleum sector and with the modernization project, we have been able in the past few years to achieve a lot of successes. In this slide, we're trying to highlight some of these main success stories, including signing a lot of upstream agreements, the energy subsidy reform that started in 2014 and was completed by 2019. And now we're going with the what we call the fuel indexation scheme, connecting natural gas to 5 million households, achieving self-sufficiency with natural gas, expanding CNG for vehicles, digital transformation, enhancing energy efficiency, refining sector improvement projects with projects with investments of more than 5.7 billion US dollars, achieving and fulfilling 2 main petrochemicals complexes with investments of around 4.5 billion US dollars, gas market reform with giving more opportunities to private sector restructure reform, launching what we're very proud of, what we call Middle Management Development Program, which again, a main focus on human resources development. I will try to highlight some of these success stories. First is the energy subsidy reform, which we had a lot of challenges with this, but with the reform program that we have adopted, we were able to direct subsidies to vulnerable groups, increase targeted social protection measures with a lot of social safety nets, increasing government expenditure on public services for Egyptian citizens, development of related public sectors to improve quality of services and such as public transportation, railways. As I said, for fuel, we are working on automatic fuel indexation that is updated every 3 months automatically with 2 main factors, international prices and the exchange rate between the Egyptian pound and the US dollars. One of the main achievements is as I said, we were having a lot of challenges from 2011 until 2015 with a lot of shortages of gas, but with the reforms and the projects that we did, we were able to achieve self-sufficiency of gas in 2018, and we resumed exports. This was done through 29 gas field development projects with investments of more than 30 billion US dollars. And this made us achieve growth in the gas sector from -11% in 2015, 2016 to about 20% in 2018, 2019. The next point is the gas connections to households. And we were able in the past 6 years to connect the gas to about more than 5 million gas households. This represents about 45% of what we have been able to achieve in the past 40 years. And in this regard, I would like to thank the EU for their support for this project, whether in terms of grants or facilitated loans with the AFD and other supported EU international financing institutes. Another element is CNG for vehicles. And in this regard, we have been able to in the past 3 years to accelerate the trend of this program. And with His Excellency, the President of Egypt, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, launched an initiative a few months ago to expand CNG use. And according to this, we have developed a 3-year program. And through this 3-year program, we will be converting 263,000 vehicles to be operating by natural gas and expanding the infrastructure to include new governorates within Egypt. Another element is the energy efficiency across the sector. We have been able to achieve some successes in this. Some of them were through low-cost programs and projects, which achieves about 35 million savings of $35 million savings. And also we have implemented some energy efficiency projects with some investments that achieved savings of about $450 million. I'm not going to go through the rest of the, due to time, to the rest of the details of the slides, but I will be able to answer any questions in this regard. I would like to go next to the last part about Egypt as a regional oil and gas hub. And in this regard, I would like to highlight that we have developed a hub strategy within the sector based on 3 main tracks: internal, which is focusing on the institutional setup whether within the oil and gas sector or within the government through dedicated working groups, intergovernmental working groups, or the political side through a lot of international cooperation with our neighbors and with the EU, and on the technical and investment side through several projects, upgrading infrastructure like refineries, like depots, like pipelines and storing capacities. And also building on our assets like the strategic location among resource-rich countries and also demand extensive, energy demand extensive regions, and also infrastructure like SOMED, like Suez Canal, and like gas pipelines and networks and gas LNG liquefaction facilities. And also in this regard, we have been promoting these assets through one of our major events, which is the Egypt Petroleum Show, Egypt, that has been there for the past 5 years. And this has been very successful in attracting a lot of investors and a lot of potential partners. And one of the recent successes that we have been able to do is the signing of the East Mediterranean Gas Forum that was done in September, 22nd of September. And in spite of the COVID-19 challenges, we were able to sign this in a relatively short time period, maybe in 15 months since the inception of the idea of the EMGF. With this, I come to the concluding slide, which is the energy sustainability is a key objective in our Vision 2030 and in our strategy as oil and gas sector. The economic reforms and modernization program successfully mitigated COVID-19 adverse impacts, and this is a testament to how resilient we have been in the sector and our reforms. And we are committed to continue transitioning towards the green economy, depending on both gas and also renewable energy and other clean fuels like hydrogen. Egypt-EU strategic partnership to achieve Egypt's goals in the energy sector is an important element in our strategy, and we are ready to continue collaboration as it is essential to solve global energy challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Osama, for very enlightening presentation, which reconfirm again that the whole energy sector really have a success story. And this represents maybe challenge in future to keep this success forward. It's quite clear that we have very clear vision regarding future and how we could proceed with it, but still is a very challenging considering energy transition and considering the current challenges from COVID-19, as you showed that we have succeeded and have more resilient to mitigate this impact on the we have a question, two questions. One of the questions is raised about the transportation sector. Now we talk about electricity vehicle, we talk about conversion to natural gas. Is there a kind of an integrated energy strategy for the transportation sector regarding which car we convert to gas, which car we convert, or we will let all technologies to compete and it's up to the market? Mr. Osama, could you give thoughts? And also I will go back to Dr. Mehina to provide his thoughts about this.
Thank you, Dr. Hafiz. Thank you very much. I think this is an important question. And maybe before going specifically to the transport sector, I would also like to talk about hydrogen, because I have seen a lot of questions about this. So hydrogen is one of the elements that is attracting a lot of interest from the Egyptian government. And we have addressed this question in the Supreme Energy Council in a meeting that was chaired by His Excellency Dr. Shaker, Minister of Electricity and Renewable Energy, with the attendance of several relevant ministers. And during this meeting, the ministers agreed that they will establish a task force from the different relevant ministries, first to develop a strategy for Egypt about hydrogen. And this is going to be done through cooperation with other countries who have some advancement in this, and also with some companies who also did some of the exercises, whether some of the international oil companies or some of the energy and electricity companies. So we believe we're on the right track to do this, but we want to not to start from scratch, but we want to start from the experience that has been, to build on the experiences that was done through other countries and also other companies. And to go back to your question about the transport sector, I believe we want to have a mix between CNG, electric vehicles, and maybe also potentially from hydrogen. Because in Egypt, we have a lot of gas, which is a very valuable resource that we would like to capitalize on the different sector. And we have a plan on this, and we already use CNG. For electric vehicles, there is discussions within the government, whether Ministry of Electricity, Ministry of Petroleum, and other ministries like Ministry of Industry and other ministries related to car manufacturing. And actually, we are now trying to put the pieces together. What specifically, we have a plan for CNG, but now we are ready to discuss how can this plan be integrated with electric vehicles and also potentially hydrogen. And there has been a meeting maybe on Saturday, we have all read about this, with the president about car manufacturing, including both cars to operate by CNG and also electric vehicles. So I think this topic is on the highest priority of the agenda of the government, including definitely His Excellency the President. Hopefully I had address the question.
Very good. Actually, you even also disclosed information, because we received a lot of question about the hydrogen strategy of the countries. Now we understood that there is a decision from the Supreme Council to form a task force for developing a hydrogen strategy of the country, taking into consideration lessons learned from other countries, as well in cooperation with them, as well as with energy companies. Dr. Ahmed Mehena, your comment regarding integration of different supply sources for the transportation sector.
Yes, I couldn't add more than Engineer Osama mentioned regarding the two topics. For hydrogen, as he mentioned, the task force for formation, now it is the right decision to form a course to discuss and to give some recommendations for what is the strategy, what partners, what is the main partners in the world we can cooperate with them. Regarding the electric vehicles, when we talk about the electric vehicles, we would like to give a comprehensive view regarding the accommodation of technology for local manufacture, especially for batteries, for engines, for bodies, etc. But I think for providing electricity, there is no problem for electricity sector because we have a surplus now from electricity. We can provide electricity from any kind of electricity. We can maximize the share of renewable energy in the future. We can consider the electric vehicles as a storage for renewable energy in the future. Now we are in the stage of learning. We are in the stage of preparing our capabilities to enter this market strongly. We have many partners in the national level. We have the Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Petroleum. Many partners. We can put a comprehensive strategy for Egypt, and I think electricity sector one of the main partners and main players in this issue.
Thank you. We have a question to both of you. It's actually it's a request, more a request rather than a question. It's basically about this national document, the strategy 2035, how we can get it. It's not available on the website. Other documents as being released. So it's a more like a request that it's a very much of interest that this document be enabled on the websites of these of the ministries, both Ministry of Electricity and Ministry of Petroleum, because this is very much important to know or to understand what's being told about. We many talk about strategies that says, and we couldn't find this strategy available for us. So this is a request more than a question. Too. We have another question. I don't know if it's within scope or not, but it's basically to Mr. Osama regarding the calibration of the meters on the gas meters, both on the infrastructure and on distribution. I don't know the background of the question, but it means that there is a calibration program going on to ensure that meters on the transmission network and distribution network are subject to calibration, regular calibration program?
Yes, definitely, because there are supply contracts and purchase and sales agreements for gas, and this provides that there has to be some sort of metering and calibration each time, and there is check from time to time on this. I'm not sure about what are the details of the question, but if this is the question, yes, definitely there is.
A second question was about the modernization program. Is there a kind of a timetable for the modernization program? So there is this target going to be achieved by this year, and by next year we're going to have these targets coming on? To Mr. Usama, the question.
Yes, we have definitely we have a plan for the modernization. We have already achieved a lot of the plans, and most of the successes that have been presented today are the outcome of the modernization, because the modernization is not just about projects; it's also about the way we are doing the business. About the governance, whether the systems, the regulations. So we have achieved most of our plans in the modernization, whether in the, let's say, the HR pillar, the hub, energy hub pillar, on the investment attraction, and even on the upstream and downstream pillars. What we're still working on is some of the health elements and the restructuring parts. And we were on the right track on this.
The question, I'll start by Dr. Mihena and then go back to Mr. Usama regarding, you presented a lot of new initiatives using new technologies. What status of development of human resource to be able to work with this kind of new technologies and developments? So what's the plans for human resource development so far in the energy sector?
Let me say that we have in the electricity sector around 20 training centers in the electricity sector in many fields. In the leadership, we have a very strong center in the Ministry of Electricity. We have training centers in the field of operation, maintenance, hydropower in Aswan, and renewable energy in the New and Renewable Energy Authority, many of training centers. Human resource is a very, very important issue for us. Let me say, when we start to operate Siemens power plants, one of the main targets of us to build capacities of the engineers and technicians. So many of engineers travel to Germany to have a very advanced programs for operation and maintenance. So His Excellency the Minister usually say in all events, the human resource is the main capacity for the electricity sector. And we have many training programs. Around 25% of the employees already trained annually in many fields for electricity. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Usama, I understood that the human resource development is part of the modernization program. Could you shed light on this?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Hafiz. So yeah, we have a dedicated program in the modernization project to human resources, and through this we have developed a lot of systems, not just training or development, but a lot of modules and a lot of assessment about this and succession planning. And one of the programs that we're very proud of is what we call the Middle Management Project. And this project is started with an initiative from His Excellency Minister Al-Mullah, that he said that I'm sure that we have a lot of brilliant young people at the sector, but he wanted a mechanism how to identify these people and how to put them into the leadership track on a fast-track mode. That's why we developed a mechanism to identify these people very objectively without the need to go through any bureaucratic or even to go through their managers or bosses. It was very objective of the application and the selection, and also the development program was done with the support of our partners from the international oil and gas companies. And we provided opportunities for them to travel and have on-the-job training. And this was one of the really unique things about this. It's not a classroom development or training type. Some of them went in programs that lasted 11 months, some 6 months, and some maybe 4 months. On-the-job training and shadowing some of the leadership of these companies. So we believe this program is unique, and we are very proud that we were able to do it, to finalize the first phase. And the first phase included 450 employees among the fast track and management track and the technical track. And we have launched already the second wave, but due to COVID, we are a little bit slow about this, but hopefully within the next few weeks, we can resume the implementation of the second wave again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think, although we have a lot of questions, many of them specifically on the area of hydrogen, and this might encourage us to have a specific webinar on hydrogen. We still have some questions, but I think we need to move to our next presentation and then keep the questions. Mr. Osama, I understand you already have a commitment. If you can stay as long you are able, it's very much welcome. Our next presenter is Dr. George.
Thank you. Sorry, yes, Dr. Hafiz. Thank you very much. It was really a pleasure. I enjoyed the panel and you're moderating it, and I enjoyed joining with the panelists. I would have loved to continue and listen to Dr. George, but unfortunately I have another commitment and I have to leave. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I promise you that we will make it specifically later to you, because sure you will miss so much. But for sure we could have a specific meeting on this. Actually, thank you very much. Dr. Ahmed Mehina, if you could stay with us, because we have a list of questions still pending, but I think we need to proceed first to Dr. George Yanakidis. Dr. George Yanakidis holds a degree in mechanical engineering from... Yes, Dr.
I will be with you, Dr. Hafiz, no problem. I will continue.
For your generosity. Yes. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Dr. George Yanakidis holds a degree in mechanical engineering from Aristotle University in Thessaloniki, Greece, and a PhD from Imperial College of Science and Technology and Medicine, University of London, UK. He worked initially as a senior consultant and then as a head of energy systems analysis laboratory in the Center for Renewable Energy Sources and Savings in Greece for a total of 19 years. Since 2016, he is working as a freelance energy consultant. He has more than 20 years of professional experience in the sectors of renewable energy, energy efficiency, energy planning, energy modeling, energy systems analysis, and energy statistics. He has strong experience in international energy consulting and cooperation with several energy institutions in EU, member states, and third countries. He has worked in Eastern Europe countries, in the Middle East and Africa on energy planning issues with focus on development of energy strategies. Using energy system models, he has been the project coordinator for 4 EU-funded projects in the field of energy planning and energy modeling over the period of the last 10 years. He participated in the Energy Technology System Analysis Project ESTSAP of the International Energy Agency, the program TCP of the International Energy Agency, IEA, as a national representative in the period between 1999 to 2016 as the operating agent for from January 2012 until December 2016, and is currently the project head of ESTSAP since January 2017. If I may add, Dr. George has a very strong contribution to the development of Egypt Energy Strategy 2016, and he continues his generous support in updating this strategy to 2040. Please, Dr. George, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Hafiz. It's a pleasure to be with you. I wish I could be in Cairo these days, but unfortunately I cannot, so we had to be remote. So following what the previous speakers said about the very ambitious plans that Egypt has for 2035, I would like to put an extra step here, so moving forward to 2040. And within the current project, which we are running now, we plan to support the development of the extension and the update of the energy strategy with a horizon out to 2040. So what I plan to talk about briefly today is some basic experiences which were gained during the development of the energy strategy 2035, which was done in a previous project, and then actually identify the main points which we would consider for the update of the energy strategy with the time horizon to 2040, and what kind of updates regarding the methodological approach we plan to have. The TARIS project was the project that has developed an integrated energy strategy to 2035. And as far as I'm concerned, I think that there are some very important lessons that were learned during that process and that were identified. One of the first things that I would like to mention was the fact that we managed to basically create many different alternative scenarios. And as we have seen over the last year, even the wildest scenario could become truth, the way things move in this world. So it's very important when we build a scenario to see how things could develop in the future, to include as many as possible stakeholders through a consultation process, through workshops, through written procedures, in order to identify possible main parameters that can be used for the formulation of alternative scenarios. And this is something that we have done in TARIS, and I think we have managed to engage successfully almost all the stakeholders in the sector. A scenario is basically a rational selection of combinations of the different factors to create a coherent storyline. So this is important when we basically need to sit together with different stakeholders that have different perspectives of the sector and trying to combine all the views and possible ideas of how the sector could move, or what are the important issues that we should take into consideration. Uncertainty is important, as we have seen over the last year, and we need to do sensitivity analysis to explore alternative options and a larger solution space using the models that we use. So try to see what could happen if parameters could change in degrees that we have not managed to foresee so far. In the TARIS project also, we have done quite detailed analysis of different key indicators. So this is just an example, and you can see that we have tried to run a lot of different scenarios with a large range of results in order to see of how could these possible results affect the energy system, or also how could this be achieved if we have identified that one of these targets is something that really we need to go for. And one of the main things and the main lessons that was also learned is the fact that in order to do any kind of analysis, we need reliable, transparent, and readily available data. And this data should cover the whole of the energy system, supply and demand, all of the energy commodities. And this is one of the points that our project is also going to try to tackle, to make sure that at least there is a central coordination in order to collect all the necessary data that should be used in the energy planning process. Another point that I also think is important was the fact that we have managed to make clear that decisions and planning in the energy sector is basically something that needs to take into account many different criteria. There are many stakeholders, there are many issues in the sector, so many different criteria should be included when decisions are being made, especially when we're talking about the medium to long-term time horizon. We have tried to do something like this in a very first and simple way during the TARIS project. So we have tried to identify key criteria that could be used to rank the different choices that we have seen and the different outputs that we have seen in different scenarios. This is just an example that the scenario 4B, which was at the end promoted as the most appropriate after the energy strategy 2035, was actually one that did perform well in most of the criteria that we have put down. But we feel that this process needs to be enhanced and use more advanced tools, modeling tools, in order to include the multi-criteria analysis overall in the decision-making process or the planning process in the energy sector. So having this in mind as a background, now we move into the phase of updating the integrated energy strategy in order to take into account new developments in the sector, which were quite a lot over the last years, but also extend it in the time horizon and move forward to 2040. Overall, when we do planning and we formulate scenarios, there are a number of parameters that actually influence the inputs that we use related to energy, environment, and economy overall. There are parameters or elements which I call here supranational. So it's basically elements that are not controlled by the country, but it's basically overall a global development. Things like that include technology costs, as we have seen lately with the reduction of the costs of renewable energy technologies. The international fossil fuel prices, or how other players behave in international markets, what kind of policies they are following, which could probably influence the international energy market. There are also what I call here national elements, which are basically elements that are specific to each country, things like the domestic energy resources, or things like the socio-economic structure and the corresponding influence of the demand, the needs for energy services demands, or other factors and constraints regarding technology availability, for instance, or market constraints or market barriers. And the last category is what we call national objectives or policies. These are basically the part of the scenario that are really controlled from the policymakers. So it has to do with targets, it has to do with measures, it has to do with policies that are being implemented. So having all this in mind, the main changes that we plan to do when we move forward in this project regarding the planning and the scenario development is, first of all, the incorporation of the changes regarding the renewable energy technology costs. Now, from the last scenarios that we have done back in 2015, things have changed quite a lot regarding costs, and things are expected to change even more if we move into a time horizon to 2030 and 2050. So we have updated the costs that have been taken into account when we do the analysis regarding the basic renewable energy sources and how we expect this to change with the time horizon to 2030 and 2050 based on data mainly from IRENA or other international sources. Then we also included in the model more details regarding renewable energy sources, mainly regarding their geographical distribution and their capacity factors. So different areas in Egypt have different potentials regarding wind, but they also have different characteristics, mainly regarding wind and regarding the pattern in which they produce electricity through the year. PV is more or less more predictable because of following the cycle of the sun, but wind, as you can see, can be quite different. And this is quite important when we do a more detailed analysis of the power sector system, because wind turbines in different areas could contribute in a different way to the overall power system. And this is a detailed analysis that was done within this project under the updated combined renewable energy master plan. So it's we have incorporated the results of this new analysis into the modeling process. All the speakers so far talked about electric vehicles. So we will include electromobility in our scenarios, and according to the IEA, actually electric vehicles are one of the few technologies that are basically on track with their sustainable development scenario projections, which is the most aggressive scenario projections that they're using, which means that it is a technology which is seriously being taken into account. It's started playing a very serious role overall in the world, as you can see with the numbers and the shares of electric cars and their projection. One of the main barriers in the penetration of the electric vehicles, of course, is the charging infrastructure. So you can see what's going on in Western Europe when electromobility is increasing rapidly, and you can see what's going on in the rest of the world where we are still in the starting point regarding electromobility. So this is, especially the charging infrastructure, is something that really needs to be taken into account by policymakers, because it's infrastructure that should be taken up either by utilities or by providers. But we will include alternative scenarios penetration of the EVs in our analysis. Hydrogen, again, was a hot topic for all the speakers so far. I mean, this is a map from the analysis of the IEA, so you can see that basically Egypt, according to their analysis, has one of the lowest production costs of hydrogen by hybrid renewable energy plants, so PV and offshore wind systems. So this means that there is a very large potential there, and there's a very large business opportunity as well overall, either including hydrogen as a fuel in the local energy chain, but also producing hydrogen and exporting hydrogen. So using this as a business opportunity to export it to Europe and contribute it to the overall hydrogen strategy that Europe has developed. So we will, and we have already started including these options of a hydrogen economy within our analysis, and trying to see how this can contribute both on the increased penetration of renewable energies in the Egyptian energy system and the possible benefits that this could have overall in the economy. The other national elements which really need to be updated as well regarding the scenario formulations are, first of all, domestic energy resources, as we have mentioned. Natural gas production is one of the key uncertainties that we could take into account when we have alternative scenarios, especially in the horizon until 2040. So possible future production profiles can be included in alternative scenarios. But also what we have seen over the last years are also changing demand patterns. And this is something that we have seen quite evidently in the part of the electricity consumption, whereas instead of having this continuous increase that we have used to see so far regarding electricity demand, we see some kind of a flatten out of the demand over the last years. So this should be studied in a bit more detail to see what kind of parameters influenced these changing demand patterns and how we can incorporate them in our analysis in a better way. Uncertainty. We all live in the post-COVID area at the moment. Well, we live in the COVID area, but the post-COVID area will come soon. So the point is, how does this affect the economic activity in the world? How long will this effect be? And when do we expect to recover? The IEA is already checking alternative scenarios. So there's one scenario where they expect things to go back to the 2019 level by 2021. So next year we will start recovering. There's also the delayed recovery scenario where they expect the effect to be over a 2 years period. So you can see there's uncertainty, of course, and this can have overall an effect on the demand. So it will be useful to explore alternative GDP recovery scenarios, either taking into consideration that this effect will be something in the short term or it could be something in the longer term. And of course, changes in the GDP will also affect global demand for fossil fuels, and changes in the demand globally for fossil fuels could also affect prices of fossil fuels on the global level. So this is one uncertainty that we will think of incorporating somehow in our sensitivity analysis regarding different international prices of fossil fuels overall. More uncertainties that are coming from the policy of the other players in the region. Dr. Bertaki mentioned the Green Deal and the border adjustment mechanism, the carbon border adjustment mechanism. I mean, this is still under consideration and from the European Commission, but it seems to be a will to impose some kind of a tax, of a carbon tax on goods that are being imported in the European Union. So this could put a pressure on the energy systems of other countries which are actually producing goods that are being imported to Europe to reduce their own carbon intensity in the manufacturing process. So this can be, could be an important driver to decarbonize energy systems of other countries. And through the close ties of Egypt with EU, of course, this could be an effect. And the other thing I've mentioned here are basically pledges for greenhouse gases reduction after the Paris Agreement. If this becomes more ambitious or not, political changes could actually drive more the Paris Agreement. And so this is an uncertainty overall, which could be taken into account in alternative approaches. In order to do all this, we plan to have an updated methodological approach using soft linking of different models. So we plan to use the timed Egypt model, which is an energy system model that includes the whole of the energy system of the country and is doing analysis to the medium to long-term time horizon of the energy sector. But the idea here is basically to also include a macroeconomic model, what we call a computable general equilibrium model, which is doing an analysis of all the economic sectors, again, to the medium to the long term. And we want to couple these. So the macroeconomic model will provide projections, macroeconomic projections to drive the energy demand and the energy sector. But also the energy sector will feed back effects of changes in the energy to the economy, because energy is one of the main factors of economic production. So we see this as a loop, as a soft linking, which we will use. But also, since the power sector, the electricity sector is so important regarding the penetration of renewable energy sources, we will also include a power system operational model. So it's basically a model that we look into the way the power system could work in the future when very high penetration of renewable energy sources will come. And in order to do this, we need a dedicated model or a very detailed model that is actually looking into a higher level analysis of the power system and how it can operate under high penetration of renewables, where we need more detailed data regarding the demand profile and the actual generation profiles of variable renewables and more dispatch characteristics of the power units. And this can also be used as a feedback to the energy systems model in order to take into account detailed operational level characteristics in a scenario where we have a penetration of renewable generation going to whatever 40, 50, 60 or even more % of the overall power generation. And also one of the topics that we would like to analyze in detail is the curtailment of RES. So if there is need to basically throw away energy from renewable energy sources being generated. So these are our soft linking, models of linking approaches that we are taking. And then just as an extra part, the multi-criteria decision analysis, which will also be included in our analysis. As I have mentioned, there are multiple stakeholders in the sector, which who sometimes have conflicting interests or conflicting needs. And in order to do that, we will utilize the multi-criteria decision analysis approach, where we can basically have different scenarios or actions, different criteria, different weights, and different players. The advantage of this mathematical approach is that at the end, it can basically show you the results based on stakeholders' compromise. So taking into account criteria and rating and rankings of the different stakeholders, of the different approaches, they can basically give you a solution that compromises the needs and the beliefs and the prioritizations that were set by all the different stakeholders. So all these will be included within the project, and I think that this is one of the most important parts of the project so far, the setup of the energy modeling unit. The idea is to support the setup of a unit that will be able to utilize all these tools and will be able to basically take into account national targets, do detailed analysis using all these modeling tools, and actually produce alternative scenarios for applications and support to the overall energy planning process of the country. Thank you for your time, and I hope I didn't take up too much of the time so far.
Thank you, George. Thank you very much for this very comprehensive and very clear vision regarding the development of the energy strategy of Egypt 2040 and the methodological development which is being introduced as well as new scenarios to the development. Maybe one of the questions, the point you raised in your presentation, we received a question before even your presentation as being projected, will be raised, which is a carbon border adjustment mechanism. Actually, the question to Dr. Mehena is about, there is a plan in Egypt to develop a kind of low carbon certificate systems, as many investors are facing issue already for entering the Egyptian market because of this specific subject. So the question, do we have a plan to develop a kind of a certification system for low carbon, green, guarantee of origin, any type of this kind of certificates?
Thank you, Dr. Hafiz. Let me the first mention that before Paris Agreement, globally we have CDM, Clean Development Mechanism for marketing the carbon certificates. But after Paris Agreement, there is very debate and very negotiation globally to build and to establish the global market for carbon market and carbon certificate. Nationally in Egypt, we haven't up to now any markets for the carbon market. But if we decide to establish any markets for carbon and carbon certificates nationally, we have to be focused on the global market at the beginning. After that, we can establish the carbon market. Because the carbon market, depending on the share of renewable energy, the commitments nationally and the commitments internationally, then we can see what is the borders of this market.
Okay. We have another question about water desalination. You mentioned that there is around 290 million cubic meter per day will be produced desalinated, which is equivalent to 1 billion cubic meter per year. What's the expected consumption or impact on the power sector, where many of this world needs an electrical energy? And also, it's expected that this needs might be increased more than this figure so far. And how we could ensure that renewable energy will be used to provide this desalination units.
Yes, let me say that the target of 2.9 million cubic meter per day, which is equal 1 billion cubic 1 billion cubic meter per year. It is a plan for Ministry of Housing, not the plan for the electricity. We are committed to provide electricity for desalination in Egypt. But it is a very important issue and a very important area for investing in renewable energy. Any investor hope to invest in renewable energy, not we are not committed to buy the electricity generated from renewable energy, but we can buy water as a final product after using the renewable energy for desalination. After that, the government can buy the water from the investor. I think it will be a very good investment opportunity to the all investors or private sector. But if we look at the surplus now in the electricity, we are ready to provide desalination for electricity this year and for the upcoming or 5 or 10 years. But if we look at the long term, I think there is a good opportunity for investors and private sector to invest in the desalination by using renewable energy.
Another question about electric mobility. When we expect that the tariff for electric mobility will be announced? And myself as a comment also, I believe still the tariff needs to be looked again. It's not including much incentives to switch to electric mobility. So when that will be announced?
As I mentioned in my presentation, and as I mentioned for your Excellency, Dr. Hafiz, this tariff under studying now in Egyptera, and Egyptera is responsible for issuing this tariff. And there is many sensitive factors, as Mr. George mentioned, in upgrading the strategy. Also, there is many sensitive for in updating the tariff for electric vehicles. But let us see what the Egyptera will develop this tariff in the near future.
We have another question about research and development. This there is a program, specific program dedicated for research and development in this in the energy research in general, which is supported by the Ministry of Electricity.
It is a very important area, research and development, because without research and development, there is no progress, there is no stability for the electricity system. So it is very important for us. His Excellency the Minister mentioned in many events that it is very important for us. So we launched a very strong training and research development for production sector in Ain al-Sokhna in cooperation with Siemens 3 months ago. Also, we have some researches and some developments in Nereya laboratories and also in some production, but still we need more and more in this issue because the future transfer the sophisticated technology for us. I think we need to enhance our capabilities. We need to enhance our capacities to deal with the new technology, with the new the new IT in the market.
There is a final question about NGOs. How they could be engaged in developing the energy policy in the country, and is there a plans to engage NGOs in this process?
NGOs is a very has a very important role for enhancing our work. We have a good relationship with them. We try to build a good communication in the future. I think the minister hold the annual meeting to announce the tariff for the media and for the NGOs, and he received their comments to enhance our work, to enhance our services. I think NGOs the main partner with us.
Okay, question to Dr. George. It's when it is expected to start the energy modeling unit, and how to join the task force for this unit?
I think maybe you will be more appropriate to reply to this question regarding the energy modeling unit. So we are in the process of close consultation with both ministries, the Ministry of Petroleum and Ministry of Electricity, in order to discuss the details of how to actually do it. I mean, we have a proposal. I think you can elaborate a bit on this, and we are in close consultation with the ministries. Now, the next steps, we will see how we move forward, because due to the situation, the whole process was delayed quite a lot, but hopefully we will be able to build up speed.
Okay, thank you. I have a final question to Dr. Mehena. Most probably this is somebody from Naria. He asked when it is expected to see grid curtailment services tenders in order to solve the issue of the ministry is currently facing with huge surplus. So we would like to have a kind of a tariff for curtailment. So if the system operator decided to curtail a certain plan, he will pay for this curtailment.
I am not involved in this issue, as you mentioned, Dr. Hafiz, but I think Dr. Muhammad Abdulrahman and Dr. Khayyat can reply for this question better than me.
Okay, I think we have a request made from many of attendees regarding enabling this presentation. We will try to make it available as we got approval from the panelists regarding enabling their presentations, but we will work to make them available to all participants and attendees of this presentation. I think we exceeded our time by far, but for sure this is because it's a very interesting meeting, and we would like, by the end, I very much grateful. I would like to thank the panelists for their thoughts, for their excellent presentation, for their knowledge they shared with us. Also, I would like to thank all participants who participated in this webinar and forwarded questions and eager to understand more. We understand that many of them are a player within the sector, and for sure the information they were going to get, and also through their communication will help very much and complement for the development of our energy sector. Thank you very much, and looking forward to meet you soon. Sure, we're going to prepare a webinar specific for hydrogen, as it has been emerged today that it's one of the points under very much focus of many of the participants. Thank you very much, and bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.